Hi, everybody. We are approaching the eve of Shavuot and the holiday where we commemorate receiving the Torah. Traditionally, we read the book of Ruth on this holiday and eat lots of cheese, cheesecake, dairy, you name it. Um, but the story of Ruth has always fascinated me. And it's not just what happens as Ruth and Naomi continue on living in the land of Judah, where Naomi had a certain amount of status, and um, she came. She comes back to that area after leaving Moab, where horrible things were happening to her. She lost her husband, she lost her sons, and she's left with these very loving and very devoted daughters-in-law. Early on in the story, the Naomi decides to go back to her home area where the famine has finally stopped, and there's this moment on the road. It's like a crossroad. And Orpah's there and Ruth is there. These are the two daughters in law. And Naomi is adamant about going back home. Naomi has already become a widow. She argues that the daughters in law should go back to Moab, where they're from, and continue on with their lives. And she says, I have no more sons to give you for you to marry, and you should go back to your home and pick up your lives as widows, but pick up your lives. There's a conversation that happens at that crossroad that I hear over and over and over again in my life, in the lives of my friends at our age and stage in life. And that is, what do we do about mom? And by extrapolation, what do we do about dad? We are at a moment in our lives when our parents' lives, if we are lucky enough for them to still be alive, um, that we are constantly asking that question: what do we do about mom? I was lucky enough to have not only two sisters who don't live here, sadly, but who were absolutely supportive, and we were on the same page every step of the way. And I always also was lucky enough to have a mother who knew herself well enough to know when she was ready to get some help and when she wasn't. And so we followed her lead. My mother-in-law, of blessed memory, was never the person who we could talk about this with, because she just didn't want to talk about it. Luckily, my mother did and had some very frank conversations. The what do we do about mom question is one that goes beyond looking for a senior center, looking for assisted living, or whatever it is mom needs. It goes to, how do we treat our elders in this society? How do we take care of those most vulnerable in our society? Which, in post-biblical terms, of course, in the story of Ruth and Naomi, is are the widows, the orphans, the most vulnerable society. But Torah teaches us over and over again that the most vulnerable in our society are the ones that we need to watch out the most for, that our laws, our Torah commandments, the mitzvot in the Torah, have at its core how we treat each other, how we build that just and righteous society, following the derech, the path of the Torah, and what value is of great importance, which is, how do we protect the vulnerable? So as you continue, or maybe begin, or maybe have had that conversation, in our case, mom passed away almost a year ago, so that conversation has already been done. But for you, if you're just beginning to have those kinds of conversations, what do we do about mom? Um, Take a look at the book of Ruth and see if you can't draw the inspiration for kindness, for care, for listening, and for support, and those most beautiful words that Ruth says, "Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will be buried next to you." Um, these are acts of kindness, and they are the ones that can guide us in this very difficult crossroads that Orpah, Ruth, and Naomi were on. See you at Sinai. Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach. And